In this video, let's go through making a Joko Engineering 50,000 subscriber play button. Thank you all so very much for 50,000 subscribers and more. I am completely honored and glad to have hopefully helped the community any way that I can. So in FreeCAD, I've got this play button. I thought making a embossed mesh pattern around the button would be pretty cool. So let's go through making this step by step, and without belaboring the issue anymore, we'll go to a new part and we'll start in the part design workbench. So from here, I want to sketch this. I'll call my XZ plane, which is my front plane, the plane that the play button will face me. Yeah, that could arguably be the top. You know, there's a lot of different ways that you could set these things to be, but let's grab an arc here, and I'll immediately make sure that the ends of my arc are horizontal, and then I'll bring in my keyboard monitor if you ever need to see my hotkeys. For instance, we're going to hit R for radius. You can see I'm hitting R on the keyboard monitor. So we hit R for radius, and I'll give this a radius of, I'm going to say 20. I'll add a construction line, right? So we toggle our geometry to construction. We go to the origin, grab my arc, and then I can give this a vertical distance. We're going to go with a vertical distance of 2. Next, we'll toggle our geometry back to driving geometry. We'll go T for tangent and make sure that these arcs are indeed tangent. I'm going to raise this point up just a little bit and make one more arc, whose center point, of course, is coincident upon our horizontal axis. T for tangent once again. Make sure that these arcs are tangent. R for radius, and we'll go with a radius of something like 8. All right, with that, one more arc. There. T for tangent. Grab another construction line, so we toggle our geometry to construction from the origin to this arc. That's fine, because I can add a horizontal. We can give this a horizontal distance, and I'll go with, how about 3? That determines sort of the aspect ratio of the play button. I think 2 by 3 is a fine aspect ratio for something like this. Next, maybe I'll grab the endpoints of this arc, and we're going to say V for vertical. We'll grab here to here, V for vertical. Here to here. I'm going to say E for equal, but I'm pretty sure that's going to end up as a redundant constraint. And then R for radius. We'll give that 1 inch, right? So we're fully constrained. We only need to continue adding constraints and relations to fully constrain everything else. So we're going to say E for equal there, and then V for vertical, and yeah, we don't need to add any more dimensions, right? We can fully constrain only with constraints based on what we have. We're going to say between these two, T for tangent, E for equal, between these arcs, we're going to say H for horizontal. Now we're going to go with an arc here. We're going to say V for vertical, E for equal, yet another arc there and there. We're going to say E for equal. Bam, right? We're going to close that. And now let's make a plane. And of course, we're working off our front plane or our XZ plane. So we'll go to Model. We'll go to Origin. Here's our XZ plane. And we're going to say 19 millimeters, which a little less than an inch, about 3/4 of an inch. So in the Z direction, 0.75. And then we'll say OK. And then I want to make another datum plane. So I'm going to go stand on the same plane, the ZX plane or XZ plane. Same thing. We'll grab datum plane. We're going to say 0.75, and I'm going to flip sides. So now I've got two That's around x-axis. Let's go in the z direction instead, 0.75. And then we'll just turn that back to 0. So I've got planes on either side of my sketch that are both offset the same. We'll grab one of these, make a sketch, make a circle. We'll go R for radius, and we'll go quite small. 0.01 is fine. Close that. I can also use the space bar to hide my planes, and then I'll create a sketch on the plane that I've just hid. We'll use the edge import tool here. We're going to grab a circle, and then E for equal. Bam. That doesn't look like it's centered, but it is equal. So I'll just make sure. Yeah, I'm coincident in one way, so I'm just going to go there, there. V for vertical. So I've got a circle on each of my datum planes, just like that. Right, that's exactly what I want. So we'll go to loft. And I'm going from one sketch, so we're going to add a section here. Now, of course, we're opening up like a play button, but it's all quite straight, and we end in this sort of cone shape. I want the play button to curve in and end normal to the sketch instead. So we're going to add our next section. And that makes the whole loft symmetric, and you can tell the edges curve around and are vertical right at that sketch, which is what I want. So I'm going to say OK to that. Brilliant. Now, I have the front plane facing me, so we're going to create a sketch on the XZ plane. I think a simple circle will do. Now I can always just look at the constraints that are being auto-added, or I can go to this right here, say view section, and I can cut this in half so I can actually see my origin if that's an issue. We'll go to radius. We're going to say 5 inches. Bam! Just like that, right? We'll close. We'll cut. And I'm going to go with through all. And so now the front plane faces me just how I want, right? Our orientation right here. I click on front. I'm looking at the front of the button, and it's got a flat back. So we're just going to say OK to accept that cut. Let's go to the curves workbench. Of course, if you don't have it, we'll go to Tools. We'll go to Add-on Manager. No proxy's fine. And then from here, you can choose curves and select install if you don't have it. Restart FreeCAD, and then you'll have curves, which mine shows up down here. So after this, we can select this button right here, extract subshape. So what I'm going to do is hold down the control key, select all of these faces, and then a tricky little point, I got to select this circular face as well. And we're going to extract subshape. And what we've done is we've hidden our solid, right? I can always bring it back with the space bar if I just tap on pocket or additive loft. But we've created a surface that represents the front of our play button, and I like that. As of right now, right, I'll just do Control Shift and spacebar to hide everything, bring my pocket back, because there's a few things that I would like to do, but I do need these faces for the future. So as of right now, let's jump back to the part design workbench, and I want to make a new solid. So we're going to click New Body here, create a sketch, and of course the button's kind of in the way, but I can either move my view down here, or I can choose my plane from the tree. And what I'm going to do is make a hexagon and another hexagon, and we're going to close. And then we're going to say E for equal. We're going to go H for horizontal. We're going to say line there. We're going to choose perpendicular and make this line perpendicular. Then we can give it some hard dimensions. I've got this sort of diagonal dimension, right? Maybe I'll make that 0.05. And then I'll choose a vertical dimension, and we'll go from this point to this point. And I think 1 might be a good size pattern. Maybe I'll go 0.75. Yeah, that'd be cool. All right, so I have this hexagon pattern. I like its general position. If I really want to, right, I can use the lock constraint for positioning. We just lock it down, and then we're fully constrained. And then, of course, that's just meant to hold the position of all this. But one last thing, and I will cut my view here just so I can see the center of this. I'll go change my dimensions to driven dimensions. We're going to give a horizontal here. We're going to say kablam 0.69282, and then we're going to do a vertical dimension. So I'm running this in Linux, and one nice thing about Linux is you can have always on top windows. So I'm going to pull up a calculator here. We're going to right click, always on top. And we're going to say 0.69282 times 2. And I'm just going to use the calculator as something that keeps the value right there. And then I'm going to pull up another calculator, and we're going to say 0.4 times 2, which is easy, that's 0.8. And we're going to keep the value right there. Again, right click, always on top. And this one is already always on top. So now I can click on this window, and these calculators can stay right where I want them. We're going to close that. Of course, FreeCAD has a spreadsheet. You can do that as well, but I think what I'm doing here is just fine. So I'm just keeping the sketch here for later, and I'm going to create another sketch. And on this sketch, we'll choose this plane. Change back to driven dimensions. I'll go with the center rectangle. And again, I just look at the constraints and I can tell where I'm on the origin. So we're going to go right there. Now I can fully constrain this if I want. That's certainly best practice. We'll say 6 inches. And I sure miss the hotkeys that have Shift H. I got to reach all the way over and hit the L hotkey for horizontal dimension now. We're going to say maybe 12. Close that. We're going to create an extrude, or pad, as it's often called in reference to part design. I'll make that 3 inches deep. Now I can go back to the sketch that I've just made. Pocket. We're going to say through all. And I'm going to select symmetric to plane. Alright, this is where our calculators come in handy. I'm going to go with a multi-pattern up here. It's this button here. And we're going to choose our latest pocket. And I'm going to pattern the pocket by saying, not add feature, but rather right click and add linear pattern. There we go. You can tell I'm patterning the pocket, or extrude cut as I like to call it. And we're going to say horizontal sketch axis is fine, but I want to go with a length of 1.38564. You don't really have to use all the significant figures there, but now I want to go all the way across, evenly spaced, and to do that, I'm going to just say my length. Let's go, times 5 over. Excellent. And then I'm going to do my occurrences one more than the number I just typed, so we're going to say 6 occurrences. And there we have an evenly spaced one. And you can tell the pattern is enveloping our entire play button, which is my intent there. Next, we say OK to that. We add another linear pattern. And this time, maybe I'll try vertical sketch axis and see how that works out for us. Our length will be 0.8, and I might need to reverse the direction. There we are. And of course, I want to go 0.8 times maybe 4 times over. Just to be safe, I'll go 5, and that means I want 6 occurrences. And we have a hexagon pattern all day long. We're going to say OK. Now I can hide my body by going to my highlighted body and hitting the space bar, because now it's time to edit these faces. I'll head over to the draft workbench, which does what I want to do quite well, and I can also close my calculators as I'm done with them. All right, there we go. Guess we had to think about going to the draft workbench for a second. I'm going to go to my grid and hide my grid with that hide grid button or show grid button. Let's go Control Shift and highlight all of our pocket faces. And then I'm going to head over here to the scale, which is right here. Select scale, make sure that all these are 0, 0, 0, and I'm going to enter my point. Let's go with uniform scaling checked and create a clone, because why not? And I'm going to say scale it to a scale of 1 point. Let's go with 0, 1 actually. We're going to say OK to that. And what we've done is I've created a surface that is just giving me a little bit of gap from our other play button surface. And that's exactly what I want for my hexagons. So what I'm going to do is show my body that I've hid with the hexagon stuff, right? And in my tree, I have pocket face 0, 1, 3. So both of these I think are going to be pretty useful. I'm going to use this scaled surface that I've made to actually trim this whole thing. But before I do, just to make sure I get a clean trim, I'm going to make sure that I'm on my active body 0, 0, 1. I select this face, create a sketch. And I don't think I have to be too brilliantly precise about it, but I'll create a center rectangle along here. We'll select this point and vertical dimension. We'll give this point 0.5 perhaps. Right. And then maybe same point horizontal. 6, maybe I'll go a bit bigger. 6.125, right? And then we'll close, pocket, through all. And I'm trimming off the bottom of this just a little bit, right, to prevent any potential zero thickness or non-manifold type of geometry. So when I go to use the surface to cut, it won't be on some kind of non-manifold geometry being produced. I'll need to summon the part workbench for this. So we're going to go to part, slice apart. And before I actually invoke this, I'll go back to my tree and highlight things in the right order. First, I highlight the body I want to slice, which will be body 001. And then I hold Control and select pocket face 013 as the tool that I will be slicing with. And now I slice apart. Bam! And we've got this folder that appears in our tree of exploded slice, and it comes in two parts, right? The part above the surface that I sliced and the part below the surface that I sliced. And of course, I want to get rid of the part above the surface that I sliced. It's kind of a cool geometry to see the negative play button in there, but I'm going to hit the delete key, and that gives me a nice hexagon pattern going all over my part. Looks like no zero thickness problems. We are good to go. Next, I want to add text. So for text, there's a few things I have to do. First thing that I have to do, I'll go into my slice and find the surface that I sliced with. That's going to be pocket face 013. I can even hit the space bar to show that if I wish. You can tell there's our surface coming and going. And what I'll do is go to the draft workbench once again, because I want my letters to stand above this hexagon pattern. So I'm going to scale one more time. We hit the scale. We make sure that that's 000, enter our point, and we still have uniform and create a clone, which is what I like. We're going to say 1.1, and you can tell we create a surface that is bigger still. I scaled that too much. I did 1.1, I meant 1.01, so hopefully in the history of FreeCAD I'm not the only one that's done something like that. Why don't I delete this? Pocket face 013, scale, same thing, 000, 1.01, and there we are. Now I have surface, 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 exactly how I want it. And this next one is going to be great for letters and lettering. So while we're in the draft workbench, we might as well get this taken care of, right? I'm going to put my view on the front view, and I think that's very important to do. Move the play button down a little bit, right? We go to this shape string right here. And instead of 000, I'm going to click above the play button so I can see the text very well. We're going to say channel name. And maybe I'll make that all caps. And we'll go to our font file, and you just choose a TTF file. You can download them from the internet. I think 1001fonts.com or something like that has a bunch of fonts. I recommend getting the ones that are free for commercial use, so you don't, end up with any legal problems. I click here to select my font file. Go with the font called Action Jackson. That's fun to say, probably hard to say 10 times fast. We'll give this a height of maybe 0.4. And then a shape string is created of our text. Now this is like a surface, right? It's infinitely thin, but we've got it on the right plane in the right orientation, and we can edit this. So I go to my shape string in my tree. I can go to Data and View. And from Data, I can change my placement. I can also change my size, and I think I'm going to need to do both. So size, looks like it didn't catch my 0.4, so I'll hit 0.4 in here. And it, of course, scales it actually much larger than I want. So I'll continue to play with this value and get a size that I think is appropriate, which I think would be spanning across the play button. That might be good. For position, right, we have our X, we have our Y. Maybe I can start taking my Y down. Looks like Y enjoys being on 0. There we go. It's my Z that I want, and of course I can't see my shape string because it's behind the play button. But I can always change my view to wireframe. And now I can start to see the particulars of my view. So I'll just enter points until I get something that I think looks really good. I think that looks about right. So from here, I can highlight my shape string, and since this is not part of a part design body, we'll go to the part workbench. We'll create an extrude. And I'll say about 2 inches, not symmetric. There you can see, even in my wireframe state, the letters are going in the direction that I wish. We'll go back to the front view using the view cube. Back to draft. And we'll insert one more shape string. This time, string 50,000 subscribers. We'll do a height of 0.15 to start off with, and same font, Action Jackson. I can click my point right here. I'll say OK, and it should generate a shape string. There it is. The shape string still came in small, but of course we can always change the size. Try 0.15. Yeah, that's not bad. Maybe 0.175. I'll again just play with my position values. I think I like that value. So I'll click off that, go to our shape string, back to part, extrude. I'll again say 1 and apply. So I've got my text. I can change my view here. We'll go to as is. So a few things, right? I've got pocket face 14, which is here, and I have my two extrudes. So I've got my two bodies here and here, and then I have my face that I can cut them apart with. So I'm going to choose a body, choose the face I'm going to slice with in that order, and slice apart. And now I'm given an exploded slice, and I have, of course, the two separate bodies. So I can simply blitz the delete key and click on various things because there's a lot to delete here. If you can tell, now my text is actually sitting above my hexagon pattern because we scaled the surface. Right? Excellent. I can also, if I haven't already, I can, yeah, there you go. I can hide my other plane or my other surface that I used. All right, now let's go to our exploded slice here. I've got pocket face 14. I can show that or hide that with the space bar. What I'm going to do is go to my extrude, my 50,000 subscriber extrude, and then hold Control, select pocket face 14. We're going to do the same thing again, slice apart. All right, next, blitz the delete key again. All right, so I've got this play button, and we need to add the play symbol in, and then I think we're going to be good, right? I think we're going to be print ready. So let's go with create a new body, and in my new body, you know what? Let's stand on the ZX plane right there. And we'll make a we'll make an offset in the Z direction. Might have to flip sides. There we go. Right. So there's my datum plane. We'll create a sketch on it. We'll go back to model, and I'm going to hide my datum plane with the space bar. And from here, we'll go into reference geometry. I'm going to make 3 of these construction lines. We're going to grab horizontal, make sure that this is horizontal. And I'm going to make a generic play symbol here. We're going to say E for equal, or make sure that this is equal here. And you know what? I think I'm going to structure this a little bit differently. I'm going to make it 2 line segments on the play symbol. So we're going to say, let's go with polyline here. Boom. To there. To there. And back up, right? So I've got 2 segments for every straight line. We're going to go with parallel. Make sure that all of these are parallel. And I'm doing 2 segments so that I can easily mark a center line. So we're all parallel. We're going to say equal. You can also do the E key. All right. And now I'm going to make sure that we are more equal, say from here to here, and from here to here. And that gives us the play symbol we want. So our only degree of freedom is the size of the play button. Exactly what I want. So we're going to go with vertical. We'll go from, say, point to point here. Maybe I can go 2. That's kind of a large play button symbol, so maybe 1.5, right? However big we want. And then we'll exit, right? We'll close. We'll go to the other direction. And yeah, that's probably a good distance in. So we'll say OK to that. We'll go to the part. We'll select our, first off, we'll select our main body, which would be this one. And you know what? We should probably merge in some of these bodies. So I'm going to select my body and my hexagon slice, and we're going to fuse, or union, depending on what vocabulary you would like to use when. Alright, so now I can go to my fusion in my tree. I can hold Control, select my play button, and I can make a cut. And there we've cut out our play button. And we can even boolean in the text if we want. I've printed it both ways and it's gone great. So either way, I think we're looking at a somewhat finished play button. So of course I can go to my exploded slice, do a little Control Shift, and go to my cut here, and union. I get this error sometimes, but I rarely get a problem. Okay, while we are waiting for this to boolean, I will make a 3D print of this and time lapse, and we will see how it looks.